Hello everybody and welcome to my video on installing Eclipse and writing a Hello World application, a getting started tutorial for Visual Studio.net developers. So the reason I'm creating this video is when I first got into Android development, I tried to find information in tutorial videos on how to convert over from the Visual Studio environment and getting Eclipse up and running to look and feel like Visual Studio and kind of get me started and the things I needed to know and how to install things and how to configure things. And so I couldn't find anything real good on it, so I decided I'd go ahead and make my own. So this is that. These are the goals. We're going to set up Eclipse. We're going to tweak its settings to look and feel just like Visual Studio.net. By default, the interface looks a lot different, and so I'll show you how to do that, and I'll provide you the config files to do that. I'm going to explain some of the similarities and differences between Eclipse and Visual Studio. We're going to write a Hello World application. I'll walk you through that and what all is involved in that. Maybe even show you a little bit about how to compile and publish that out to the Google Play App Store or the Amazon App Store. So the first thing we need to do is we need to download all the SDKs, JDKs, the IDE, set up the settings, and then install everything and get it all up and running. But before we get started, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Kevin Wilson. I am a .NET developer. I have been doing software development, both mobile, desktop, client-server, database development for the last 16 years or so. Down at the bottom there are my websites, Advanced Imagery Library, Advanced Zip Library, Text into PDF. Go check them out. They're very useful tools for developers. And let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to download the Java SDK, and we're going to go ahead and take this Java Standard Edition version 7 update 5. We're going to download that, and we're going to take the 64-bit version for Windows because I'm running on Windows 7 64-bit. Oh, I have to agree. I agree. Alright, we'll hit save, take this, put it there. So while that's recording, we're going to skip over and we're going to download the Eclipse IDE. The version we're going to be using is Indigo. There is a newer version, Juno, but everything that I've been doing is with Indigo. All the settings files and things are specific to Indigo, the interface, and so forth. So we're going to grab this one here, the Eclipse IDE for Java developers. They make several different types of builds. Eclipse is more like a multi-language interface. You can use the same interface to develop for C, C++, Java, and all kinds of things. So that's why you'll see lots of different versions. So this is the one that we want. And we're going to go over here and we're going to install the 64-bit Windows version. Sure. Right there. One thing to note is that if you have any kind of firewall software running, I have Zone Alarm, you want to turn that off. So I'm going to exit out of this. Are you sure? Yes. The reason for that is because the next step of installation, we're going to be starting up a bunch of software that will be going out to the internet, and it will be downloading stuff. And I've noticed that if you have the firewall software running, it will interfere, it will block that communication, and the installation won't go well. You can once you've got everything all installed and in place and all that, then you can go ahead and turn your firewall software back on, and you can tell it, you know, these are the software pieces, this is where they're running from, and yes, they do have permission to hit the internet. Next thing we want to do is we want to get the Android SDK, which is a plugin for Eclipse that will make it easy for us to create and modify and compile Android applications. It also has a tool set and a virtual machine kind of thing where you can start up an emulator and you can test your software on your computer as if it was running on a real device, which is really super handy. Alright, so what we're going to be doing, we're going to go ahead and download the latest version, version 20.0.1. Information about it's here. Go ahead and hit download. Click other platforms. We want to get, if you download this, it gives you the executable, but we actually want the zip version. So we're going to click on that, say save, dump that out here. If you need the direct URL for that to download it, it's right here. And I'll post these URLs along with the YouTube video so that you can copy and paste these. So we've just gone here, we've grabbed the JDK, the Java JDK, we went here, we downloaded the Eclipse IDE, we went here and we downloaded the Android SDK. And that is pretty much all we need at this point to get started. There is one other thing we want to get, and that is we want to download these settings files. These are the settings which we're going to be installing to kind of give you a jump start on setting up the IDE. Basically, I exported the settings from my IDE, which I spent a lot of time tweaking to look like the Visual Studio.net interface, and that will kind of get you most of the way. And then this is an export of the different shortcut keys. I use kind of a unique key combination where I'm very familiar with ReSharper, and I use a lot of its abilities, and so I actually mapped a lot of my key combinations to ReSharper's. You know, what their keys are, and I also came from a Visual Studio or Visual Basic background, and so some of the key combinations that I use are Visual Basic key shortcuts because that's what I'm familiar with. But I'll show you how to get into that and customize those keys to whatever you want them to be. It's actually very easy to do. And then the coding styles, I changed them just a little bit to be a little closer to C#, and then XML coloring is actually a picture. I wasn't able to find any way to export XML coloring, but it's really easy to set that up. I've got a snapshot of what it's supposed to look like when it's finished, and you can use that as a kind of a guide to set it up, and I'll show you how to do that. And unfortunately, Eclipse is not as refined as Visual Studio. It doesn't have as many options, and I find that under certain circumstances it can be unstable if you open up a lot of different files, especially if you're opening up a lot of different layout editors, that it has a hard time handling the memory and it will crash. So in order to try and improve the interface a little bit, I have this little plugin that gives you an undo and a redo button, which by default you don't have in the IDE, which I think is silly, and I'm sure you can get lots of other different add-ons to improve, you know, the way that you can tweak the buttons and toolbars and things. I've actually thought about creating one myself to give me more options on the toolbar, but for now this will do, and I'll show you how to install that. And then what you want to do as well is download these little bits. This is a chart of the activity lifecycle, and I will explain a little bit more about that. This is basically a map of when the different events are fired in Android, and I'll explain a little bit more about that as well. And then this is the source code which produced this, and then this is a list of permissions, and I'll explain a little bit about permissions and how those work as well.